We're going to start off with House Bill 169 by Representative Curtman. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 169 is a bill that we've heard in committee before in the past legislature. I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. There is no fiscal note, so you don't have to worry about any impact to state revenue. I'll tell you that about 3 years ago, I had a hearing, the Committee of Government Efficiency and our Transportation Committee. It was a joint venture. What we did was both of these committees got together and we went over 10 years worth of audits of our Department of Transportation. After we went through all these audits, I asked the Commissioner of MoDOT, I said, has the legislature ever gone over any of your audits with you? And he said no. So I did some more exploring, some investigating, only to find out that in spite of all the good work that's come out of our auditor's office, whether it's been a Republican or a Democrat, these audits just continue to sit on a shelf, so to speak, and collect dust. And sometimes the legislator, if we have a different bill that we're working on, sometimes we might go and look at an audit just to find a little bit of good information. But in order for these audits really to work, the legislature needs to follow up with those departments and agencies on the audits that our state auditor has done. And so what this bill does is this bill says within 1 year of an audit of a department or an agency, the Speaker of the House can assign a committee to go over that particular audit with that department or agency. And then once they have their hearing, they need to submit a letter or a report to the Speaker's office for any types of proposals or recommendations if there is any. This is just a matter of good government. Last year in our Committee of Government Efficiency, and before that, this bill, when I've been talking about it with our colleagues, it's had a lot of bipartisan support simply because it does us no good to let audits just collect dust without the legislature, who is in charge of the budget, submitting a budget to the governor. It does no good for us just to let these audits just sit around without us ever even looking into things that our departments and agencies are doing that they shouldn't be doing, or looking into practices that they're using that are abusive or wasteful or even fraudulent. And so this bill just says that that a committee needs to go over these audits with the department or agency, and then after that, the legislature will have some knowledge, some institutional knowledge on that particular issue, on those particular audits. And if there's any recommendations that need to be made for us to pass law, or just begin to rein in a department or agency, we'll at least be able to do it. We'll have a point of reference to start from. With that, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Well, I think this is our duty and our responsibility to dive in this sort of thing, and especially with this sort of budget crunch that we're finding ourselves in. I think it's, like I said, our duty to dive in exactly where every dollar's going. So I think this is a very good approach, and it should be a bipartisan approach, I believe.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, if I may, this isn't a question of whether or not we can already do this. The legislature can already do this. The problem is we don't. Right. We haven't. In the 6 years I've been here, we've never gone, except for government efficiency and transportation, we've never gone over any of the audits. And I'll give you an example. Through the hearings that we had one hearing, we had one audit in which we found out that MoDOT was doing something they called a rodeo. Okay, they would bring in equipment and personnel from all across the state, and they'd basically have a field day and a fair, and they'd all compete, who can drive a steamroller or what around cones, I don't know. And I think Auditor McCaskill said this is not a good use of your funds. This thing needs to stop, so they stopped. But the legislature never followed up on this. A couple years later, after Auditor McCaskill was gone, they began doing it again. And then Auditor Monty came and said, this has got to stop. You've got to stop doing this. The legislature needs to make sure that we're reining in these departments or agencies when our auditors catch them doing stuff like this.
Totally agree.